With the transfer window now open, it's time for clubs to sell and buy players before the new season. We've looked at each team's most exciting target already, but what about the outgoings? Here is one player we think each Premier League team should sell this summer, including you boys, Aston Villa. Congrats on promotion, lads. Arsenal Mesut Ozil. Now this isn't because Ozil has been bad, it's just because he hasn't played enough. A player of Ozil's calibre should be used every game, yet the German is no longer a guaranteed starter for Unai Emery, which just seems wrong. Considering the wage he's on, Arsenal might as well cash in on Ozil, get some money in for him and buy a replacement who will actually be able to influence proceedings on the pitch. Aston Villa Henry Lansbury. Sevilla are back in the top flight, meaning that Henry Lansbury is a Premier League player again, despite barely playing any part in the promotion campaign. But then again, you won't be able to tell from his celebrations, you'd think he'd scored the winner. Villa will need better than him if they're going to survive in the Premier League, and surely Lansbury knows it himself that he's not top flight quality. Bournemouth Asmir Begovic. The goalkeeping situation in Bournemouth has been a hot topic of discussion on the South Coast in recent months, with Asmir Begovic losing his place in Eddie Howe's side. They've been linked with a variety of different stoppers, which can only be bad news for the Bosnian. It's probably best he moves on and gets back to being a number one somewhere else. Brighton Jurgen Locadia. The Seagulls will need to improve in front of goal if they're going to improve next season, and Jurgen Locadia is not the man to bring them the goals. The Dutch striker has been a huge flop since moving to the Amex 18 months ago, and it's probably best he's moved on, maybe back to the Eredivisie where he might do a bit better. Burnley Joe Hart. Initially we had Nick Pope penciled in, but he signed a new contract at Turf Moor, so we've turned our attention to Joe Hart, whose career continues on its downward spiral. A permanent move away from Manchester City didn't help the former England number one, so maybe Joe Hart needs to move again. Maybe Vincent Kompany will take him to Anderlecht. Chelsea Kennedy. With the impending transfer ban, Chelsea won't be too keen to sell too many players, but one they should look to get rid of is Kennedy. The Brazilian had an awful year on loan at Newcastle, showing that he just isn't at the required standard. If he can't get on the bench of a Newcastle team who are fighting relegation, how on earth can he justify being part of a Chelsea squad who are competing in the Champions League? Crystal Palace Alexander Sørloth. The big Norwegian striker has never scored a Premier League goal, and he probably never will. He spent the second half of last season on loan at Ghent, which shows he's not in Roy Hodgson's plans at all. Palace need a striker, but he's not the answer, so the Eagles need to cut their losses on the £9 million man. Everton Cenk Tosun. Another striker who isn't the answer to the club's woes, Cenk Tosun cost even more money, but at least he scored the odd goal since moving to England. But overall, Tosun's been a flop at Goodison Park and should be moved on to the benefit of both parties. He must be sick of his life at Everton, while the club will be livid they spend so much money on someone who can't score the goals required. Leicester City Islam Slimani. We said last summer that Leicester should sell Islam Slimani, and they didn't listen, instead loaning him out of Fenerbahce. Well, he's due back at the King Power, and for exactly the same reason as last season, the Foxes need to sell Slimani, for good this time. Liverpool Adam Lallana. Everything is rosy at Liverpool right now, with a brilliant squad playing brilliant football under Jurgen Klopp. But one man who will probably want to go and seek first team football is Adam Lallana. After a few good seasons at Anfield, the midfielder's injuries have derailed his career, with the past 2 years seeing his stock drop dramatically. This might be the right time for him to wave Liverpool goodbye. Manchester City Nicolas Otamendi. This one might not be as likely with Vincent Kompany set to leave the club, but Otamendi is another centre-back who should leave this summer. The Argentinian has barely featured during a historic season for City, which led to reports that he wanted to leave the club this summer. City should grant that wish and bring in a much younger replacement. Manchester United Alexis Sanchez. The wages he on has ruined the structure at Manchester United, as it seems various others demand even more money. The Chilean has been a huge flop, and Manchester United need to get rid as soon as possible for the good of the club. Newcastle United Isaac Hayden. Simply put, Isaac Hayden wants to leave this summer to be closer to his family, and Newcastle must grant its wish after the midfielder remained so professional during the second half of the season, where he was a key player for Rafa Benitez. Norwich City Nelson Oliveira. Having previously been frozen out by Daniel Farke, it seems obvious that Oliveira will leave Norwich this summer, having been on loan at Reading last season. The Portuguese striker isn't Premier League quality, and this is the last chance for Norwich to get a bit of money back as he enters the last year of his contract at Carrow Road. Sheffield United Ched Evans. The forward spent this season on loan at League One Fleetwood Town, so taking the step to the Premier League doesn't seem likely. Anyway, he's already been transfer listed by the Blades, who are preparing for their return at the top flight after finishing second in the Championship. Southampton Guido Carrillo. I mean, we were spoiled for choice here. There are quite a few players who the Saints should sell this summer, and Guido Carrillo is one of them. A £19 million signing from January 2018, the striker has been a massive disaster and spent the past season back in the loving arms of Maurizio Pellegrino on loan at Leganés. With just 6 goals to his name, Southampton certainly don't need him back. Tottenham and Vincent Janssen. We said they should sell him last year and they didn't, and he barely played for the club. This summer, Tottenham have to do the right thing and get the Dutchman off the books. Watford, Stefano Okaka. It's another repeat from last season, another striker who still needs to find a new club. Stefano Okaka, surely your time at Watford is up. West Ham United, Lucas Perez. This lad's time in the Premier League just hasn't worked out, with not even a move to West Ham saving Lucas Perez. He arrived to add depth last summer, but the Spaniard just hasn't done much at the London Stadium, and it's probably best he just returns to La Liga where he looks a lot more comfortable. And finally Wolves, Leo Bonatini. The strike was crap when he joined Wolves permanently last summer, his goal drought continued, then he joined Forest where he's also been crap and failed to score again. Wolves can certainly do better and need to move the Brazilian on. Wolves need another striker ahead of their Europa League campaign, but that man shouldn't be Bonatini. So that's one player each Premier League club should sell this summer. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.